There's been a raft of restriction rollbacks in New South Wales this week. What are the rules now, and how different does life look in the state from, just a few months back?
We've come a very long way, and on Monday the plan is to make continuing changes. We had a small little hiccup with the infection that tested positive out of that hotel worker, but as we've seen in New South Wales over the last 9 months, our systems are strong and resilient. We went straight into contact trace and we've been able to close down that quickly. We've been able to inform the community on who needs to get tested and who needs to self-isolate, and that will allow us to make a series of changes on Monday. That primarily means that we move from 1 per 4 square metres to 1 per 2 square metres across all indoor venues across New South Wales. So it doesn't matter whether it's your local club, a local pub, going down to your local retail or shopping outlet. We're allowing a lot more people to go into those venues. And for outdoor locations, people will be able to stand and have a drink in a lot of our hospitality venues. It's a big welcome relief for a lot of restaurants as well, who will be able to have more people into their restaurants, into the shops, and that gets more people out moving right around the city. 100% into our outdoor stadiums and 75% into our indoor stadiums and indoor theatres.
I know Tim's looking forward to hitting the dance floor very soon.
Yeah, up to 50 people on the dance floor from Monday.
Stuart knows me well enough I don't dance.
Well, like many gents in New South Wales, Tim, and across the country, I'm sure we've got a 2-step shuffle if we need it. And having 50 people on the dance floor, particularly for those really important moments in people's lives like weddings. Yeah. We've had the opportunity for the wedding and bridal parties to dance, but we all know that it's a really important moment and have the chance to be able to do that. We've also lifted restrictions for weddings and funerals so that they're now just governed by 1 person per 2 square metres, which will allow a lot more people into those particularly important services that we see at important times of our lives.
It really is great news. And Stuart, state governments have really come to the fore through the pandemic. Why have they all approached their pandemic response so differently, do you think?
Well, I think every state has had to respond differently. There's no doubt that New South Wales has been the front line for COVID here in New South Wales. We're the primary entry point for people coming from overseas, for Australians returning from overseas. They come through Sydney. We've taken twice as many returning Australians as the rest of the country combined. We've gone past 100,000 people in hotel quarantine in New South Wales. So we've had to deal with this in a very different way. The other thing New South Wales has done is we've also wanted to keep our borders open as much as possible. We know how important movement between states is. It's important for families, it's important for business. So we really wanted to, where we could. I know we had to keep the border closed between Victoria and New South Wales for a long period of time, but we've been really proud about keeping our border open, and that's also a reflection of a strong and resilient system that we've built here. And if you look at the economic data, New South Wales has performed incredibly well. And in some ways you could say that we've been able to get the same health outcomes that have existed in countries like New Zealand at half the economic price. And that just means more people in work every single day through the course of this pandemic.
Look, it's policy on the run often because we're going through a period that no one's ever seen before. But it was music to my ears during the week, 100% capacity. And that will include things like the Sydney Test match, which is just extraordinary, not only for sport and cricket and the Sydney Cricket Ground, but for New South Wales.
That's right, Tim, and we've learned a lot through the course of this pandemic. We've learned what facilities have better practices, where risk is lower, and sometimes this can be a little bit confusing for the public where they see large numbers of people congregating in a place like a stadium, for instance. But outdoors we know is a safer location than indoors, so we've tried to keep some variation between what's happened indoors and outdoors, but with relatively low community transmission or no community transmission in New South Wales. We've been able to go to that higher density, that 1 per 2 square metres. But for outdoor venues like stadiums, where we've got really strong management practices, people can move in restricted ways. We've got outdoor dining. We've got the opportunity to get to your food and beverage. You don't move around a lot in outdoor stadiums as well. So we've really identified stadiums as a safer place to conduct larger events. So we want to encourage more people to utilise them.
The performing arts industry, Stuart, obviously, was one of the first to shut down, including Broadway, which is still shut down overseas. But Pippin, the first musical, was performed on Thursday evening, the opening night. So great to see those events as well. Everyone wearing masks throughout, but doing it very, very well, and obviously having that added feeling of appreciation. So many people saying going out after being unable to for so long.
Yeah, there's nowhere else in the world that is getting entertainment and stage shows like what we're seeing here in Sydney, to have Pippin open this week and more crowds going through theatres over the weekend. We've got Disney's Frozen opening on Thursday night at the Capitol Theatre in Sydney. So it doesn't matter about the West End or Broadway in New York. It's Sydney that's really leading the world when it comes to opening our stage shows and really taking the fight to COVID. We've built such a strong, resilient system. And Janie, you just mentioned people wearing masks. We can do these things because the citizens here in Sydney and across New South Wales have worked with the government. They've followed the guidelines that we've put in place. They've all turned up, whether it's to a theatre or to the grand final or to their local restaurant, and they've followed the restrictions. They've got their phones out and checked in with their latest QR code. We've had to adjust all of our behaviours, but that's allowed us to do so many more things than what most other cities around the world aren't able to achieve.
I know it's a few months away, but I'm already getting excited about the Autumn Racing Carnival. You and I have a joint love of the thoroughbred racehorse. Anything that we should look out for that you got coming up, Stuart?
Oh, we'll see what the trainer says as we go through the next preparation, but we might be able to find somewhere out there in country New South Wales with a nice race, and good opportunity for people to maybe don't go to Randwick or Rose Hill over the summer, maybe take a weekend and go into regional New South Wales, find a regional race meeting. I love what the Commonwealth Government's come out with today.
And do both, go to Randwick and Rose Hill and go country.
In fact, yeah, absolutely. Why not back it up and do two in a week? This concept of holiday gifting, I think, is a fantastic concept. Get people encouraging them to go out, buy a gift for a family member or a friend that's not a physical gift, but it's a weekend away. Get up into the Hunter Valley, go down to the snowy mountains, drive over the Alpine Way. It's just as beautiful in summer as what it is in winter. Get down to the Riverina. That's been a community that's been really impacted by the border closures between New South Wales and Victoria. So some beautiful locations along the Murray River to go to. So many things that you can do across New South Wales and indeed across the country. It's really time for us to get out and get around our beautiful country. We can't go overseas, so why not rediscover our backyard?
Absolutely.
What a great place to be stuck in. Thank you very much, Stuart Ayres. You take care.
Thanks, guys.